each one within your industry. I'm the type of journalist who likes to start with the challenges because digital transformation comes with a lot of hopes and promises that everything will be more seamless, it will save time, it will boost productivity. But it comes with two main challenges that I hear from my experts. One is cost, two is security and safety of big data. Who would like to start? Let's start from the left, going forward, or with the ladies. If you can tell us from your perspective, what is the top challenge you are facing now when it comes to digital transformation in your own company or organization? I'm looking at you.
Sure.
And Tariq is here, so I'm going to squeeze out seamlessly.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you very much.
But I asked the first question, so she's going to go ahead and answer it.
They forced me to answer. So this is something very funny. I just graduated from CEL program in Harvard Business School in December, and I've been always getting this in classes. All professors, without raising my hand, they choose me to answer first. So I think it's keep on happening. It's something going on. So yes, first I come from technology background. I'm from Bahrain, and I lived all my life with technology. And I'm from a small country who does not fully depend on oil while we're from GCC. We've been trying to move fast, and it's very interesting to have a first question about challenges, because technology is the challenge itself. Technology is a fast-paced thing that keep on moving forward. Technology is something that is the dream that is going there. I remember a session that happened January last year where people were talking about generative AI and what's going to come next, and metaverse and digital twins, and somebody laughed. Today, everybody want to buy Rapid R1. They want to use the humane. They want something that can do AI by itself. So the real challenge in here is to keep up with what's going on. So that's the technology is the challenge of technology, actually, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Faina. Sorry, I had a sort of challenge on timing. That was my challenge. I thought I was it was later, but obviously I'm back here. So thank you very much for joining all of us. What I'd like to do is, before I make my opening remarks, if you guys could introduce yourselves. So perhaps, Abir, if you can just tell us who you are, what you're doing, and what you'd like to take away from today.
Assalamu alaikum. Abir Habbal, I'm Data Now Officer for Accenture. We focus on how to drive data now transformation, whether at national, sectoral, or entity level.
A little bit closer, yes.
Yeah. So this really stems from really powering also sustainable economies with the help of data and AI, and understanding their different implications at a sector level. We covered healthcare today, energy, and so forth. I personally have been part of shaping what the data regulatory landscape looks like today in Saudi, with the publication of data management standards and policies, whether also relating to the open data, data sharing, and even from a protection side, publication of data privacy regulations. Moving onwards, as well as the kingdom is really pushing ahead on the space, also in terms of supporting development of AI ethical guidelines, which are meant to responsibly adopt as well the emerging technologies ahead. So in summary, chief data officers love what we do. We're opposing all of these different policies and standards, but they're really about guiding the safe and effective use of these technologies. Pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Abir. Mr. Nawaf, we'll come to you now with the view that you, as the chairman of MBAS, you have a very strong footing as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned. And you've seen the challenges, you've seen them through COVID and so on. And so what are you finding now? So please introduce who you are, what MBAS does, and just the core, just briefly, of how you'd like to shape the future in terms of transformation.
Perfect. Assalamu alaikum. Nawaf Shammari, founder and chairman of MBAS. Actually, I'm chairing and board member in many technology companies, active investor in technology side, in regional, local, and global markets. At MBAS, we do ICT services, and recent years we're focusing on emerging technologies. The main challenge that most of the clients and countries and society facing is the buy-in of digital transformation. How to get a sponsor and allocate a budget and have a buy-in of clients or decision makers of the digital transformation. Everyone talking about digital transformation. So the alignment from our side as Embas, always we try to tell our customers that we are giving a value. We are not giving a hardware or a software. We are giving a value to our clients by bringing up global players and advanced technologies and put them all together, make the solutions are fitting our environment, our regulations, our markets, our customers.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. And finally, with you, Mr. Akram, what are your thoughts in terms of the challenges that you have and you know, the collaboration with the government? And I know you're seeing the government as an enabler. So please introduce yourself and tell us, as a starting point, what are your core thoughts in terms of transformation before I bring it?
Okay, I'm Akram Noor. I'm leading as Chief Digital Transformation Officer in EXA, Economic Cities and Special Zone Authority. I started actually with them 2 years ago and to develop the digital transformation sector in the entity and try to put the right roadmap actually to position Saudi Arabia on the map actually when it comes to collaborating between Saudi when it comes to the Special Zones Authority with all the rest of the world. Okay. The challenge is actually the main challenge in the governments when it comes to transformation. They have to think about transformation is a journey. It's not a project to start and end. And the Vision 2030 actually set for us the main objectives, and it works for us as the North Star to start from the point where we act and towards some strategic objectives in the vision. Going back again to the points of the collaborations between different governments, we have to have the main objective actually here through our mandates in EXA. I'm repeating actually the points and the statements, and I'm quoting this from Tamer Sadun from his first session, which was very insightful session. We are moving from mandate-driven entities toward objective-driven entities, and looking again and coming back again to the Vision 2030. One of the strategic objectives there is the ease of doing business, and it has a very deep meaning. It's not a word to say, it's a word, and it is a roadmap to start and working heavily, understanding the clients you are trying to serve here. And when we talk about the clients here, we are talking about different customer segments. You have to understand the segments that you are trying to serve here. Again, putting the customer in the middle and the core of our focus, that requires actually to start thinking, developing a customer needs driven solutions rather than you have a set of problems, you have to create transformative projects to sort out these problems. And trying to move actually from the passive way of closing the doors, trying to understand your problems, putting the set of solutions you are trying to solve here, and moving forward and being proactive, trying to use the data that's available in your positions to understand the needs, try to test the solutions with your clients and direct clients, understanding the way they behave and understanding the exact needs you are trying to solve here or the problems that you are trying to solve here. Working alone actually without having a collaboration between you and the other governments, it keeps you actually behind the line always. So opening the channels and focusing in the interoperability of the shared services that you can work together with the other governmental entities to provide for your end clients.
Thank you for that, Mr. Akram. With your permission, now that we've heard all our esteemed panelists, if I have your permission just to take a step back and to set the context here, because this is exactly what happens in most transformation conversations and discussions we had. We just go into a narrow problem and we forget the big picture. The big picture, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are going through a fundamental transformation decade. More shift is going to happen in the next 10 years than in the previous 1 to 2,000 years. That's a data point. And we need to sort of step back and say 1,000 years versus the next 10 years. That's number one. Some of the biggest thinkers of the world today are saying that by 2030, either you have AI data and all of the elements associated with this transformation operational fully and embedded within your organization, then there will only be two kinds of organizations. One who do that, and the other ones who are dead. There's nothing in between. So we can't talk about one aspect here or there. I think we need to just step back and look at that. The third big piece, which I shared with you in my email, is the importance of trust, truth, transparency, and ethics across the board. We constantly forget that. We get into an operational element, we forget about trust. Who do we trust? What is truth? What is the absolute truth that we are working with? And I think whatever questions you answer, please have trust, truth, and ethics, and perhaps empathy and values at the center of that before we move forward. And the last one is that the more technological we are becoming, the more human we need to be. I think we talk about tech, but what we now need to look at is tech will serve us, but how us as human beings, our young people and stuff like that, how are they performing? What are we doing to put this thing together? So these to me are the big questions in any kind of digital transformation conversation before we dive in deeper. So this is what I wanted to set the tone. And my final point is, today we are trying to learn. I believe today is about unlearning. Unlearning all our bad habits, unlearning things we are stuck with, unlearning things that, because the illiterates of the future are not going to be the ones who can't read or write, but are the ones who are not going to be able to unlearn, relearn, and learn new things. So these are some of the data points I wanted to sort of set as a context to sort of take the journey forward. Abir, may I ask you this question first? I know as far as AI and generative AI is concerned, it's a big hype right now. Is it hype? Is it real? And are we sufficiently focused on data? Because I go into boards and they sort of say, oh, we need an AI strategy. I said, do you have a data strategy? Well, we're going to be working on that, but can you give us an AI strategy? It doesn't connect. So what is your experience? Is this hype or is it real?
Thank you for these great points. Everything that you've covered really resonates with our approach, our philosophy around how we approach data and AI. Let's start from the first question: is Gen AI a hype? We have to understand that Gen AI has been.
Can I just stop you for a second?
Yeah.
Is there an echo? Can people hear? You're okay? Okay, because here we're getting an echo. Sorry, Abir, please.
Of course. So Gen AI has been evolving for many years, right? And it's really the power of computing, building muscle, let's say in terms of processing, plus the proliferation of data that has enabled us to reach where we are today in terms of AI. Now, is it a hype? Today we've done our study as Accenture because we believe as well we have a role to play in understanding the impact of these technologies. And that study really indicates that roughly 40% of working time across occupations, across industries, can be impacted with generative AI, whether in terms of automation or augmentation. Now, this statistic by itself, could raise, let's say, questions around the future of work. And to your point, there will be companies that fully have adopted or do not exist, right? But we have to also look at the human aspect. Because with automation, we are letting go of mundane tasks, and with augmentation, we are keeping the creative, strategic tasks as well. So people's ability to access knowledge at a rapid pace, to be able to innovate, to create, is really what we want to empower here. It goes all back in terms of looking at the impact we'll have on people's lives, but also in terms of the economic aspect as well. Now, to your other point around trust, and this is looking at the core of how AI basically gets developed, having the right type of governance in terms of how it's being built, what data is being used, does it have the right level of transparency, really also explainability to understand how is it really working in order to guide doctors on diagnostics, let's say, right? Or factory workers on what needs to be maintained or not. So this aspect as well is really core to the adoption when we look at trust and ethics.
Hey, Mr. Nawaf, can I bring you in? You're a chairman of a massively growing company in a massively growing environment. How do you plan? Because if you were in December 2022 planning for 2023, 3 months later, ChatGPT came in and blew everything up and fundamentally changed the game. And over the last 12 months, the amount of shift that's happened because of AI and generative AI and video and all of the new things that are coming in at a massive speed, you can't plan for that. How do you keep agile? How do you keep engaged and plan? I mean, God didn't send down that a financial year has to be 12 months. Why don't we think 3 months at a time? Why don't we think 6 months at a time? So my question to you is, how do you run a large corporation with a 2030 vision, but running small sprints to be able to get there, as opposed to doing 12-month plans and 6 months later the plans are out of the window?
This is a really good and tough question with the time constraint. If we talk about digital transformation in general, and we look at strategies that have been implemented by governments, by organization bodies, regulators, and even private sectors, we have to dismantle that into different pillars. One pillar is the regulatory aspect of it. What's the regulatory frame that you are having, that you are working within? And I believe, especially in Saudi Arabia, here we have one of the best and advanced and modern regulatory frames for ICT in general that really help and accelerate the digital transformation. Second important pillar of that is the infrastructure that you have in the country, the communication infrastructure, either fixed networks or wireless networks. What's the connectivity reach to the population? And we are, I think, in GCC countries, one of the highest ranked countries in having a good modern infrastructure. Third pillar of that is having the capabilities and the resources that you need. And I see this as one of the current and existing challenges, which is improving with time, that we have a lot of graduates, a lot of decision makers in positions that helping and understanding to deliver digital transformation projects. So at Embas, we dismantle these things and we look at all those components where we can add a value. And we bring related partners. We prepare related and needed resources for that, have them on training. We're investing, for example, in AI for the last 7 years. And we didn't get even revenue out of that. So we are aligning with partners, we are educating our customers, we are getting our resources trained, and now we're getting there. Now we are building the biggest AI supercomputing infrastructure in the country, which is will be the biggest in whole Africa, Middle East, Turkey, and South Europe. So the partners are really helping us in delivering those small projects, reaching to the mega projects and giga projects. We have a lot of concepts we are building up with our clients all together to reach to their demands. So this is how we live with it. I would like to go back to one important point you mentioned in your previous question, Qureshi. It was about the human factor in these AI's things. I think all those machines, we have to train them, we have to guide them to do whatever we want to do and reach the efficiencies we want. If there is no brain, human brain, with a clear vision and strategy and requirements, you cannot work. I mean, we have the best machines today. One of the challenges that we are facing in the region, and it's a global challenge, is to have enough computing power to train your modules, to deliver your apps, whatever computing power they need. Or research institutions. Imagine I was in a talk with Dr. Fatima before I started because I get late, because of I know the massive information that they have in King Faisal Hospital, for example. They need massive computing power. They need proper data structure. They need proper training modules. But we cannot, we're the technology guys. Without their minds, their vision, what they're looking for, we cannot deliver the job. So the human factor is still the master. You need to train people to do that. You need to put those talents, how to manage these things, all the place. And my colleagues here could elaborate more into the human side.
I hear a lot of throwaway lines and comments on human factor and training and development. My view is that training and development is necessary but not sufficient. Do you know that by 2030, 70% of the job in most industries that we are working in do not exist today? Therefore, by definition, whatever we're doing today, we will not be doing it 70, 80% chance in 2030. So it's not a training exercise. It's a mindset shift exercise. True. It's a fundamental, so I always say change is too slow, transformation is better, but reinvention is necessary.
Yes.
It's next stage, basically. So with that, coming back to you, Shaima, because I know it's very close to your heart in terms of Bahrain 2030 vision and training the young Bahrain population. How are we preparing them? How are you and Bahrain preparing them to be ready for that future? And Akram, I'll ask you the same question also, is what kind of training and mindset shift you're doing with the government? Because the government needs to be your enabler. We actually have to train them, not train the young people, because their mindset needs to be there. And Abir, maybe you can chip in on that. Yeah.
So I'll start with that. I'm honored to be part of the team who worked on Bahrain Vision 2030 in the year 2008 under the patronage of His Majesty the Crown Prince, the Prime Minister. At that time, it was a dream to bring Bahrain to a different mindset, and it started by first education reform and digital transformation to be at the core of what we do. Bahrain has oil, but it cannot depend on the reserves it has to raise its GDP. From that time until today, it was just recently published that 80% of Bahrain GDP comes from non-oil sector, where more than 40% comes from ICT sector. In all of this ecosystem to happen, there was a lot of technologies being in there. There was an infrastructure that is either in the technology that's being shifted as a full strategy, in addition to regulation, to security entities that are for information security only focused on having it in the whole blockchain system or preventative measures using artificial intelligence and others. In addition to not really educating people or training them, but focusing on upskilling them. When you upskill an individual, you don't tell them, I will train you to use the technology. It means I will train you to understand the shift, to understand the change, to believe in the change that will come, to become more adaptable and pluggable to what happens. And this is what we saw happening. And that's why we see that most of the workforce, we see a lot of shift that all the younger generations always trying to attract new techs. They want to move to it. And using even social media not on the norm, they are seeing the trend of technology and try to implement things. You will see a lot of hackathons in Bahrain. You will see a lot of competitions going, all focused on innovate and use technology as an arm, not focus on innovation in technology. The technology is your arm to move forward. You can see that also as part of it, one of the biggest sectors that are being fully transformed is retail banking, followed by telecommunication sector, and followed by corporate banking, and then the rest. All the individuals who are working there, they don't come with the mindset of, for example, let me get a job in a bank. They say, I'm a fintech expert.
Yeah, I understand that. I think what I'm getting to is that the kind of upskilling we're looking at is understanding empathy,
Yeah.
being much more agile, being much more flexible, critical thinking. Those are the key components coming in, not the degree we did 10 years ago. That's not relevant that much anymore. That's issue number one.
Yeah.
And issue number two is training upwards, because I sit on boards and stuff like that. The immune system, the pushback in the boards is massive. So it's not just training the young people, it's actually training the oldies, because they are scared. Because I have a phrase in the past we used to have fear of missing out. They're going to miss out on something. There is a new phrase which is called FOBO, FOBO,
Yeah.
which is fear of becoming obsolete. They are scared of becoming obsolete. So Akram, when you go in and sit with the government folks and things like that and saying, guys, you're getting FOBO, you're going to go out of you're going to be out of fashion. How do you train them upwards to diffuse the immune system, to give you the tools to enable you to perform better? Because your customer needs are shifting massively, and as per your identification, this really needs to be addressed accordingly.
Yes, just let me have actually a little bit actually of explanations. What do I mean actually by uh, uh, government to lead or government to enable here? Um, Missing the collaborations between the main driver of innovations, which is the private sector here, just creating this gap. And I think one of the spaces that you have to own here, which is the responsibility of, of upskilling the team you are working with. And doing that, it requires you to give them enough space. And how can you give them enough space if you have a lot of constraints in the government? I am blessed actually working with great talents of people. We have one of the best talented teams when it comes to the mindset and openness to learn and grow. So the government actually here working collaboratively and opening the space for the private sector to come and work with them toward the main objectives. And we mentioned actually the Vision 2030, which is the strategic objective there. But as a government, I should avoid actually leading the innovation here, but actually enabling the innovations and fostering this kind of environment, which has two main awards to me. Solving a lot of routine problems that we are facing as government entities, and two is upskilling the team members that I'm working with. As you said, actually, the uh, bachelor degree or the degree they have been awarded with, it's not helping them and equipping them to meet the pace that the government is transforming with. So we need to be open and collaborating with the private sectors, opening the space of open innovations and giving the right enablement of the team members to go out of their comfort zone and cannot be achieved without learning new skills, learning new fields, and using the new technologies. Emerging technologies now, it's open, it's in there. It's about the mindset of leveraging this technologies to solve the real problems.
Abir, may I come back to you in terms of mindset shift and 10x thinking and abundance thinking? And I know that one of my most admired companies is Accenture in terms of the digital shift that you are bringing into organizations. You go to first principles thinking, you go there and ask a completely different set of questions. When we are looking at data today, I know there are a lot of issues around privacy, around many other issues, but creating data monetization strategies which can be done in a very creative manner without actually GDPR compliance problems and so on, that's a 10x issue. What I'm finding very difficult in a lot of organizations is that they're not thinking 10x. They are sitting on piles and piles of data. He's sitting on a pile of data, and the wife is sitting on a pile of data. What the hell are you guys doing with it?
Yeah.
Because you can 10x that almost immediately, straight away. I know you do this very well, so please. And then I will ask Mr. Nawaf, you are sitting on a pile of data. How can we 10x that now?
Absolutely. Today, one of the major challenges is striking the right balance between driving data value with the adequate protection controls. So that's the equation, let's say, that needs to be solved for. And indeed, today we look at companies' valuations primarily driven by how much data assets they've developed and what is the potential for their use. So this really stems from understanding how the data value and can be monetized, whether in terms of decision support or optimization or new, let's say, growth platforms to be ignited, and identifying where this data needs to be sourced and how it can be shared by putting the right protection controls, right? Now, there's a tendency to say, no, this data is confidential or there are personal data, and really to stop there. But if an additional effort is exerted to effectively mask it or aggregate it in a way to be presented for the final, let's say, data users, there's a lot of value to be unlocked, and that's really what needs to be solved for. I'll just highlight one more thing from the aspect of our own experience at Accenture, being an organization of 700,000 people, but as well everyone needing to embrace the value of data and AI. And just from a skill set and mindset shift, we've seen basically how programs that previously taken months to design and then were delivered over years to be now basically done in a very agile way. We have micro-learning, bite-sized learning, learning on the go, continuously being updated in order so people are continuously aware of what's happening in the space and how does it relate to whatever they do.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Nawaf, you've heard the statement, data is the new oil. So we're an oil-rich country. The price of oil is $90 or something at the moment. I don't know the exact number today. But the price of oil is $90. But the price of racing fuel is $1,050. And the delta in between is the analytics, the optimization, the utilization, the anonymization, the productization, all of those components are coming in. How are you, as part of 2030, Vision 2030, taking the price of oil from 90 to 1,000? And that's in data, and data monetization and stuff, and using AI and all of the components. I know it's a very vague, broad question, but you know where I'm going is, in other words, there's so much value that is sitting there that can be unleashed.
Look, technology is always an accelerator and a value creator if it's used wisely by the budget holders, by the value-seeking people. You cannot say that the technology itself will do everything, but you need the brains behind it, that the experts, I mean, Accenture is one of the consultants. They need the minds behind those requirements to tailor the technology to fulfill their requirements. So I think we in GCC countries, and especially in Saudi Arabia, we have a very strong foundations to monetize the talents that we have and to monetize also the directions that we are seeing in global strategies for those countries. I mean, for example, in Saudi Vision 2030s, we have big hopes, big objectives, a lot of challenges. And at the same time, we are seeing ourselves accelerating in a lot of aspects, regulatory-wise, infrastructure-wise, education-wise, healthcare-wise, and these technological advancements that we as private sector bringing to the market is a good tool that will help the organizations and the clients, the government bodies and the private sectors players to accelerate their objectives and have more efficient, with less cost, deliverables that they are looking for.
Yeah.
And technology enhancing in a very fast way. So the challenge that the technology seekers and the clients need to be as fast as the advancements of the technology.
Right. So we've run out of time and we'll open it up to a few questions. Let me throw a few balls in the air while we are thinking about the questions in terms of our future policy and our recommendations for the future. We need a regulatory framework. We need an environment for public-private partnership. You spoke about data and including that, monetization, security and privacy and so on. Startups and incubators is another one that needs to be worked on. Our talent management is obviously something there. Inclusion is something there. So these are the big areas that I feel are completely integrated in terms of our policy conversations in the future. So let me throw those balls in the air and open it up to the audience, and I'll come to them right now. Have any questions? Any questions from the audience? Yes.
Thank you for the amazing discussion. If I may ask you to give us three main criteria, or one, each one of you, yani, one main criteria on how to lead in the digital era.
How to lead in the digital era. Quick, one person can take that because we'll get a lot of other questions. How can we lead in this digital era? Nawaf? How can we lead in this digital era?
Just accepting actually the changes that's happening in the technology era and being agile, it's very successful factor to keep you up with the new technologies here.
I'll give one other criteria. I would say bold experimentation.
Thank you, Tarek. So my question is around bias in AI, which is like a hot topic that we discussed lengthy in Davos. So how we are ensuring participation of women in digital space to avoid those bias and to basically close the gap?
Wonderful question, very closely linked to ethics. Shrima, Abi?
Yeah, sure. So first, everybody always talks about women empowerment, especially when it comes to technology fields and telecom. I come from the telecom sector where it's still dominant by males everywhere. And unfortunately, most of the reasons why this happens is not because of the males, it's because of the females themselves when they set boundaries for themselves, especially thinking that when they rise up the ladder, the challenges are higher and it's not their place, or they will try to find the male way. So actually in this digital era and for the women challenges, it is all about using those capabilities of being creative, of being able to do more, to understand more, and to bring it up to the game. We have a lot of successful cases in the region.
But AI is still extremely biased, isn't it? I mean, we heard this morning, if you ask the question, give me a picture of a CEO, it's always male. You ask AI to give me a picture or a background of a poor person, it's always black. It's always biased. And we are not changing it enough. And now we're getting into generative AI and ChatGPT and all of the other things, Nawaf. The problem is getting worse because once it gets into the system, it replicates so much faster that you cannot unwind it anymore. So once you put crap in, crap expands.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
And this is what I was saying about using this technology. Who is feeding this information? How to tailor the information into the system?
Yeah.
What's the client really need to show? What the user need to show to his audience? It's not about the system, but at the same time, we're seeing, if we see it from feminine perspective, most of the early tools of AIs are names as female names. So we feel jealous from that. We have to be smart. So the females are the smart.
We have another question in there. Yes, and I'll take you after.
My question is about R&D. I think I'm learning technology. I'm not in the same level. I think one area I saw with all the big boys or the new company that comes from overseas, they spend really good money when it comes to R&D. But from my limited knowledge and what I understood, we don't spend a lot of money in R&D. And a lot of the R&D comes actually, even startups, it comes from universities. We talk about startup, but most of our startups are coming at my age, you know? So where do you guys see R&D? Is it lacking or is it progressing and coming through? Because all these elements that you're talking about on AI, big data, all these elements, without proper R&D, we're going to be only buying technology from outside the countries. So I just wanted to...
Anybody?
Can I say?
Yes. Yeah, تفضل.
R&D, if we look into the aspects, I'll not talk about R&D in general here, because the R&D is a big topic and each science has its own, path. But when we talk about emerging technologies on the R&D side, we're seeing a shift in the AI for the R&D. So now we're seeing we're a player in the AI aspects, and my colleagues knows that very well. That now the potential and the value we are seeing is from the new entrepreneurs, from the new programmers, from the new talents who have AI related tools that can develop what you are looking for, which create an R&D function using the AI tools. So in the AI space, most of the new solutions, most of the tools that are coming are kindly developed with AI assistance.
So I get this question asked, and I'll come back to you. Yes, and that is that will AI replace us human beings? What's your answer? Will AI replace us human beings? AI will not replace us human beings, but human beings using AI will replace human beings. So we need that tool there with us. That's the first thing. Another one, which is really important piece here, is that, we think ChatGPT is so smart and things like that. There's something called, which is very encouraging, HITL, which is human in the loop. So behind the monitors are sitting there because we're getting complete nonsense when it comes to AI. So these monitors are actually keeping it clean. Otherwise, the kind of data that we would get, it would be really, really poor. And I think these are the kinds of key questions that we need to constantly be asking ourselves, is keeping that human element in there. Sir.
Thank you, Tariq. Thank you for the really nice discussion. I go back to what Tariq used to mention again and again, which is the mindset, the culture. I have done a master thesis in digital transformation, focusing on organizational change. And this was like 5, 6 years ago. And we found out that the culture was the key element for a big portion of digital transformation to fail because of this cultural change. So my question is now really, 5 years, 6 years across this period with big efforts on really digital transformation across the globe, specifically in GCC. So how do you see the changes now? Is it really still a challenge, or we have over that and now we have others? So,
Abir, can you answer that one? Is it still a challenge? Because every board I walk into, I get huge resistance. I get the immune system response clicking in. And not now, later, yes, we will, but a year later and everything moves on. So I find that the boards want to change intellectually, but emotionally they're not there. How do we make that shift?
Yeah. At the end of the day, the digital transformation, without the proper adoption across, let's say, different levels across the organization, it is really meaningless. That's when it fails, right? So really from a change management organizational aspect is really critical, but also this doesn't happen at the end when digital transformation is ready to be delivered. It has to happen during. And I'll give a practical example where we're working with the healthcare sector and developed a model to predict a certain condition. And that model works well. It gives a good level of accuracy. But until we worked on embedding this model into the workflow of the doctors, it was not adopted. So this aspect of bringing people on board, integrating it with their workflow, designing it with them is very critical to make this transformation successful.
Thank you. I was listening a few days ago, Sam Altman announcing Davos meeting that he wants to release from most of the NVIDIA shipping provider. Is it something that in the GCC country we're thinking about to replace and maybe to be less independent in a certain way?
I have a view. I have a view on that. Can our region become independent or less dependent on NVIDIA and ARM and people like that? I'll make a statement and please challenge me. There are about 10 companies in the world who are great on AI and they've got the lead. There are probably about another 100 companies who are pretty good at it. There are about another 1,000 companies that are okay. Everybody else are followers. They're not going to catch up. They are just going to get lost because they have so much data and lead and so much going on in there that startups and stuff like that will do little bits and pieces and then get lost in the process. That's my challenge. I think the hyper-capitalism and the hyper-technology right at the top is so fast now and so far ahead. They figured stuff out. We are left behind. Where are we? Are we just little players and little worker bees trying to figure shit out? Or are we in the thing? Maybe Nawab or Akram?
Okay, see, this is very nice question actually, and that's maybe presenting this Saudi move, and I'm talking actually as Saudi. I see the advancements actually we reach to from all other sectors. I have zero doubts that we can catch up and lead any fields that we are targeting to lead here. Absolutely, actually, with the great leadership of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. I have no doubt on the capabilities, the Saudi capabilities actually here. I have no doubts with the full collaborations between the GCC countries that we created through the open channels. There is no doubt we can lead any field. I'm talking on behalf of all Saudis, and hopefully actually also I can say I'm in the position of talking on behalf of all GCC individuals and residents living in the great GCC area.
Final question from Dr. Reem.
So actually my final question is also for you, Dr. Akram. So very recently I was reading the article about transformation in Saudi Arabia. And I came across the article which was stating the ranking of the different government entities who did the digital strategy last year. And I found out that Economic Cities and Special Zone Authority was the #1. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
My question for you is, because you are now leading as a public sector in Saudi, what is the secret sauce or the challenge that you had to overcome, or a key takeaway you would like to share with the audience?
Okay.
Thank you, Akram. We'll do takeaway because I was about to get to takeaways. So let this be your takeaway, then you, Shaima, Abir, and then I'll close it.
Very quickly, actually, is the enablements we got and the talented people I'm working with. So we have difficulties actually in the capabilities or finding the right capabilities to lead the transformations. I was blessed actually by having the right team around me to face all the challenges, just being very structured in putting the right roadmap and trying to deliver all the projects that we are after. The second point, actually, we found a great enablements from the top management. And that's maybe related to the topic that was asked by Mr. Tariq actually here. The enablements and the buy-in from the top management is really important actually for any transformation exercise that's happening across the government. And this initiative is not individual initiative, is not entities initiative, it's a national initiative. We are working, believe on, and I'm repeating what Abir said. Digital transformation is not an option. It is must to happen. If you want to be leader in the region, leader globally, it's not an option to take.
You know, Akram, I push back on that. Digital transformation is not an option. But digital transformation leads to societal transformation, which leads to human transformation. And I don't think we connect those dots as well as we should. I think we get stuck in technology and stuck in projects and forget society and forget humanity in terms of what their needs are. Lovely segue for you. What is your one takeaway as we look into the future, Shaima?
Yeah, as we said, and we've been taking it all around, we're talking about human beings, either their engagement or their upskilling. But it's very important that we don't only focus on the employees if it's an organization or the citizens if it's a country. We should think about who leads them. If we don't change the leaders, we cannot change the people. You might have really great people who are not having a guide to guide them how to maneuver and how to adapt for that change. Leaders shouldn't act like just the people walking in front. They should be the change agents. They should believe in it and they practice whatever they will preach that they should do. So focusing on leadership roles now to make them more adaptable might be what will make us ready for what's coming in the coming 10 years.
Thank you. Abir, what's your takeaway?
I'd like to add also the aspect of partnerships and ecosystems, right? So also in terms of forming collaboratives, sharing data across in order to solve challenges, and we're seeing this today on key topics like climate change or cancer research and so forth. So bringing ecosystem together across private sector, R&D, and so forth to solve a problem is really as well going to set us in the right direction and help accelerate.
Nawaf, your final takeaway, sir?
Thank you, Tar. I think digital transformation is happening. Either different entities, either government entities, private sector, individuals, kids, adults would like to be part of that or not. But the main impact that we are seeing resistance in the digital transformation, and the technology is not limited to its own sector, so it's getting into every sector, in the government, in the food and beverages, in the healthcare, in the banking, and everything, in education. So the challenge is to educate those decision makers in those sectors what's they supposed to do and dismantle the concepts to them and show them the value they are getting. Because most of the challenges that we're facing as a private sector, there is no buy-in from the sponsor of the budget because he doesn't feel the value he's getting out of this. This is the bottom line. So, and in Arabic we have a say, يعني الإنسان عدو ما يجهل. So if you don't, black boxes, people hate black boxes.
Yeah.
They cannot deal with it. So putting some efforts in educating and explaining the technology value for digital transformation, for decision makers in non-technology sectors is extremely important.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My closing remarks, the 2 or 3 things to connect the dots. The first one is that we shouldn't change because we should change before we have to rather than change because we have to. And I think all our boards and our governments and our senior decision makers need to start that. We should not change because, but we should change before. That's issue number 1, in my opinion. The second is that we touched on it a little bit. I think this issue of 70 to 80% of jobs in the year 2030 do not exist today is actually way bigger than we imagine. So we really need to engage with that in a comprehensive way. As I said, change is too slow now, transformation is better, reinvention is good. But actually, it's like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. You go into metamorphosis. A caterpillar can't just become a faster caterpillar, or a fatter caterpillar, or a more AI-driven caterpillar. You actually go into this pupa, and you liquidize yourself and come out as this beautiful, blazing, vibrant butterfly. That is metamorphosis. We need to go through metamorphosis in ourselves, in our thinking, in our work, in our structure over the next 5 to 10 years, is my view. And last but not the least is, I thought I'd put some outrageous predictions, some really crazy ass stuff. Because I was going to ask you, and if anybody else wants to join in with a crazy prediction. One of my crazy predictions is that there's something I call techno-socialism, but actually techno-colonialism. Companies like Apple and Amazon will end up start buying Cyprus or Malta, literally taking over. And so what used to be geographical colonialism, big powers, now it's technological colonialism. China is going to do something similar. So my outrageous prediction is that in the next 10 years, we will see an Amazon or an Apple or somebody like that taking over a Malta or a Cyprus or someplace like that. Because all the signs are very, very much there. So, I mean, anybody else with a crazy prediction? Any thoughts? Abir? You must be doing this scenario stuff in Accenture.
So one other thought as well, access to computing power is going to be more and more difficult over time. And this aspect of sovereign AI, sovereign computing power as well, I see it also emerging.
Thank you. And I think this FOBO is going to become a word that we will be using every day. Fear of becoming obsolete. I think a lot of us will struggle with that. So my final comment is, ladies and gentlemen, the more technological we become, because anything that can be digital will be 1,000,000 times faster and 1,000,000 times cheaper. But anything and everything, love, harmony, heart, soul, spirit, judgment, critical thinking, intuition, imagination, creativity, all of these things will be 1,000,000 times more valuable. That's where we need to put our heart and soul and to build that. And people call them soft skills. They're not, they're hard. That's tough. They're very tough to do. So my final message is we live with truth, we live with love, we live in peace, but we live as human beings, and you let technology serve us rather than the other way around. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.